Hello everyone and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. After managing to set the stage behind the scenes for winning elections, the Marxists are now on to the next phase, the use of violence. We got a foretaste of all of this in the summer of 2020, but now we are beginning to see it carried out in specific circumstances, aided of course by the media, who really have developed into the enemy of the people. Let's start with the Tennessee killings carried out by a woman pretending to be a man. The mentally ill woman shot and killed 3 children and 3 adults in that private Christian school. As horrible as the trans assassin's actions were, they are not singular. In 2018, 26-year-old Snokia Mosley shot and killed 4 people, including herself, at a Baltimore suburb Rite Aid. Mosley was a lesbian who had begun transitioning to a male, another so-called transgender shooter. In Colorado Springs in November last year, 22-year-old Anderson Lee Aldrich, who identifies as non-binary, shot up Club Q and killed 5 people as well as injuring 18 others. In Denver in 2019, 16-year-old Maya Elizabeth McKinney, who identifies as a male, Alec McKinney, shot and killed 1 teen and injured 8 others at Stems High School. That's 4 cases. Noticing the pattern? But that's not the only case of violence committed against innocent victims emanating from the left and its social engineering experiment on the American public. Just a few days ago, Philip Todd, a 26-year-old assistant for Kentucky U.S. Senator Rand Paul, was stabbed in broad daylight in Washington, D.C. And of course, there is the hideous case of Jane Fonda, who should be behind bars for her Vietnam-era treason, selling out U.S. soldiers to the commies, who, while recently sitting on the show for brain-dead women, The View, said that pro-lifers should be murdered.
What else do you suggest? Well, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a miraculous... What did you say?
Murder.
Hanoi Jane later backpedaled in the face of withering criticism, saying, it's okay, I've just been kidding. But is calling for the murder of people who disagree with the communists something to joke about, or is there actually some truth to all of this? Here in Detroit at Wayne State University, earlier this week, Professor Steven Shaviro tweeted this out. So, here's what I think about free speech on campus. Although I do not advocate violating federal and state criminal codes, I think it is far more admirable to kill a racist, homophobic, or transphobic speaker than it is to shout them down. Wayne State University's response to their professor's call for murdering conservative speakers: send an email to the entire campus saying, well, that's not really our policy, and then place him on paid leave while they investigate. Not sure what more there is to actually investigate there. Then there was the flurry of violent attacks against pro-life pregnancy centers around the nation following both the leak and the actual ruling coming down in the Dobbs case of overturning Roe v. Wade, which legalized abortion throughout the country. The left has no problems engaging in violence if they determine it will advance their cause. The trans community is launching a virtual assault on social media with a comprehensive list right here on Eventbrite for multiple protests around the country this weekend, and they're calling it trans vengeance and trans visibility. And unsurprisingly, the left's mouthpiece, the Marxist media, are actually siding with the trans assassins over their dead victims. For example, in the Nashville case, NBC News had the gall to post a piece suggesting transgenders are living in fear of being attacked, while a slew of dead bodies who had actually been attacked and murdered were barely cold. Here is the highly inflammatory piece whose headline reads, "Fear pervades Tennessee's trans community amid focus on Nashville shooter's gender identity." And of course, the more galling subheadline, "We were already fearing for our lives. Now it's even worse," one transgender advocate in the state said. What about the dead people? Are they fearing? In the wake of the trans violence, Arizona's lefty governor, Katie Hobbs, whose questionable election is still being disputed, had the embarrassing duty of accepting the resignation of her press secretary. With the Nashville murders barely a day old, Jocelyn Berry, again her press secretary, tweeted a threatening image, look at that, directed explicitly at people opposed to the transgender cult, whom they term transphobes. The image, as you can see, shows a direct threat of gun violence if you disagree with them. It's also noteworthy that the media are reporting the trans killers and assailants and identifying them by their preferred pronouns, not their actual biological sex and names. And as multiple states begin passing and signing into law measures to curb or eliminate trans surgeries and drugs for children, the left is losing its collective mind, staging protests and disrupting various lawmakers' speeches and appearances. The bottom line on all of this is pretty clear. If you are the commies, the use of violence is a form of free speech. If you are a conservative, free speech is a form of violence when you disagree with the left. See how this works? Conservative values are violent, so a violent response to them is justified free speech. We're entering a whole new era on the American cultural scene, a scene which has so far been deadly. Given the volatile conditions, there is nothing to suggest this will come to an end anytime soon. The moral fabric of America is unraveling, and the time has come for good people to step forward and make whatever sacrifices necessary to end this insanity. The country is beginning to resemble a powder keg, and it's clear the Marxists have zero concern about that. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.